Everybody is scared of something, whether it's a common fear like heights or darkness, or something more obscure like the fear of your own reflection. But what would it look like if I were to build all of these fears in Minecraft? Well, to start, I thought I would build one of the most common fears, the fear of heights. Because this is one of the most common fears, I had to make it look good. For this first build, I started with 2 very large mountains and then connected them with a bridge in the middle. After adding some details to the bridge, I realized it wasn't very scary, so I intentionally damaged it in order to make it feel a lot less secure. I mean, if I was standing here in real life, I don't think I would feel very safe, so I guess that's the first fear complete. This is just the first of 7 different fears that I'm going to be building in this video, and I don't just mean in Minecraft, because at the end of this video, I'm going to be traveling to the largest cliff that I know of to conquer my own fear of heights. Up next is megalophobia, or the fear of large objects. I think the best example of megalophobia is pretty much anything related to space. Pretty much what I'm making is one of the dreadnoughts from Star Wars. Right now I have the basic outlines of it complete, but filling in all the details is going to be the hard part. So I think I'm going to start with the bridge over here. Okay, so that's the bridge of the ship complete, and it's actually looking pretty good right now. Up next, I worked on the hull of the ship. This is one of the most detailed parts, so it took the longest. It also included this weird octagon shape in the middle, which is a little bit hard to make. After this, I added the engines to the back of the ship before detailing the entire top of it. Finally, I added the 2 giant laser cannons to the bottom of the ship, which meant, after around 5 hours of work, I think that's the build for megalophobia complete. And if for some reason you still don't think it's that big, well, here it is compared to a literal planet I built in my last video. And speaking of planets, all of my past, current, and future builds will be available to download on my Patreon, link in the description. The next fear that I'm going to be building in Minecraft is a mix of submechanophobia and, this. It's basically the fear of large things underwater. If you couldn't tell what I'm making, it's the base of an oil rig. This part is actually going to be completely submerged and attached to the ground underwater. But I'm not going to do that yet, because now I'm working on the base. Okay, so this is my current progress on the build. I have all of the outlines complete, and also I started working on this building right here. It included a fire stack. I think I actually did a pretty good job on this. But now I have to work on all of this. But before I do that, I actually made a little helicopter pad right here. So I think I'm going to start with these smaller buildings right here and then slowly work up to the bigger ones. And then finally make the 2 cranes over here. So that's the first building complete, and for how small it is, I think it actually looks pretty good. Okay, so I finished the second building, and I think I'm just gonna finish all of these 5 buildings in a time lapse. Alright, that is the oil rig complete, except now we have to actually move it underwater. And finally, the build for submechanophobia is complete. But before I move on to my next build, I also said that I would be building something for megalophobia, the fear of large creatures or objects underwater. So what I'm thinking is that at the bottom of the oil rig here is to make a giant squid. Okay, so I'm going to start my squid right here and then have its tentacles reach all the way up to the bottom of the oil rig, which is right there if you can even see it. I've never actually built a squid in Minecraft, but I think the head is kind of like this, just on both sides. Yeah, kind of like that, and then I think by putting it on all 4 sides, it actually looks pretty good. Just need to fill it all in now. I also have to make what's called a stabilizing fin at the top, which I'm gonna probably just make out of red sandstone slabs. Okay, I think that'll actually work pretty good for the stabilizing fins. Now I need to actually work on the head of the squid. I think the hardest part about making the head of the squid is trying to actually make it look natural instead of just like a straight shape. But I think I managed to get it pretty good, so now I'm gonna make the eye. Yeah, it's pretty simple, but I think it'll do. Now for the hardest part of the build, which is to make the 8 long arms and the 2 tentacles. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. It is starting to look pretty good right now, but I'm still not done because now I have to add the 2 tentacles. Yeah, these are just arms. Okay, so it turns out that the tentacles are actually like really long. like 5 times longer than these, so... And for the final detail for this squid, I have to add a beak. Okay, let's just not talk about this. The next fear that I'm going to be making in Minecraft is nyctophobia, or the fear of the dark. This fear can be hard to represent in Minecraft, but I think I found a way. My idea is to make a large maze for people to explore whilst also obscuring your vision to prevent you from seeing anything around you. What I did was mark out the correct path with diamond blocks before slowly blending it in with the rest of the maze. You also might be wondering why I left certain parts of the maze to be empty. This is because I plan on having small dark forests built in these places. But before I add the forest, I need to actually elevate the walls up a little bit so you can't just jump over everything. I think that having 100 block tall walls could actually be kind of cool because not only would the inside look good, but I could also decorate the outside. Okay, yeah, this is definitely tall enough. This is already feeling pretty cool to walk around in, but the problem is it's not really that dark. I also just retextured the entire inside of it, so now it's a lot less bland. Okay, so I have a couple more things to add to this build before I can call it done. One is a forest, another is a roof to the top of the build, a fade to black at the top, and some torches on the inside. Okay, so I got a roof on the build, but it still kind of looks like something that I would find the volume of on a math test. I got a fade to black on the inside, but I guess now that means I have to make a forest. So I'm going to start by replacing the entire floor with grass. Okay, finally, my build for the fear of darkness is complete. Because the last few fears are so difficult to build, I thought I would move on to something simpler. Because up next, I'm going to be making agoraphobia, which is the fear of open spaces. Okay, so I just created the world, and it looks like it's straight out of one of those, like, I made Minecraft fun again videos. Like, what? Okay, so what I've created might look kind of cool, but it still feels a little bit empty. Wait a minute. So for this build, I'm probably just going to keep it simple and make a small house right here. And since this is the fear of open spaces, I have to make the house really small because I want to actually show how big this place really is. Yeah, I'm looking at this build from a distance, and I think it actually fits the fear pretty well. For reference, that's the house right there. Yeah, it's pretty small. Anyway, I think that's the build for this fear complete. With this fear now complete, I only had one left to build. The final build that I'm going to do for this video is pyrophobia, which is the extreme fear of fire. So for this build, I'm pretty much just going to be making a burning hellscape. Yeah, that's literally it. Okay, so what I've got here is a whole bunch of sand, and I'm actually going to try something that I've never actually tried with any of my builds before, which is copying this whole area and then flipping it upside down so that the floor is also a roof. And it actually worked, but I still do have to fix a couple of things like that. Alright, now all that's left to do is to replace all the stone with blackstone, basalt, and pretty much anything else. And while this time-lapse is playing, I just wanted to tell you to subscribe. This video took me a really long time to make, and subscribing would help me make more videos like this in the future. Even though the build looks pretty cool right now, there isn't really that much fire. And after adding some fire and smoke, I can finally call this build complete. But before I showcase all of the builds in one epic shot, you might remember that at the start of this video, I said that I would be conquering my own fear of heights in real life. So that's what I'm about to do.